Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the July 15th meeting?
So moved.
I'll second.
Any corrections or additions? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. Next item is appearances. We have several appearances about Winnequa Road, but we also have a few other appearances about other issues. So we're going to have the appearances about the other issues first, then we'll go to Winnequa Road, and I'm going to read a statement about that before we go to those appearances. So first up, when your name is called, please go to the podium and give us your name and address and speak your piece. We'd like you to limit it to 3 minutes. First up is Sean Day. We'd like to speak about the TDS towers. Thank you.
So forgive me, I get a little nervous talking in front of people. First off, I just read in the paper about these TDS towers, and I'm wondering, are these going to be 5G capable someday? Does anyone know?
I think these are different than 5G.
Because I understand,
The towers that were referenced in the newspaper article are connections for TDS fiber across the right-of-way that runs along residential properties. These are kind of small cabinets, if you will, so I don't know that it necessarily has to do with 5G, and we have not been told one way or the other about
Okay.
5G service.
so is it true that it's going to be in every front yard?
I mean, it's understanding that it'll be along all of the right-of-way within the city, so most property owners would be impacted. I don't know the exact number of these cabinets that would be installed in between property lines, but it is our understanding that they would impact all parts of town.
I'm no expert on 5G, but I understand that in a city like this, you would have to have an antenna in just about everybody's front yard, or at least on everybody's light pole or an electrical pole. And I just think there should be a discussion in the community about, if we really want this, we should at least know what 5G is, the dangers of 5G. My God, I hope somebody could prove me wrong and I could sleep better at night. But if I find out that we're radiating 5G outside everybody's window in the city of Monona, I'm not just gonna leave the city, I'm gonna flee the city. I mean, this is radiation on the same level as weapons of war. And who's gonna be operating this system? Many communities have already outlawed it. And I just think it's time that somebody researches it, talks about it, because if it's true, what I suspect, that they're doing this, it's just going to happen overnight. We're not even going to know what's going on. You look about what happened in Madison. They had a meeting on July 17th at 6 p.m. talking about 5G. Did anybody even know about it? Was it on any newspaper, in the newspaper? Was it on TV? Was it on the radio? No one even knew. So they're just going ahead with that blindly. And I think in a community like this, a nice, intelligent community, everybody deserves to have people think about it, talk about it. That's all I'm saying. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. And normally, we don't get into a back and forth here, but I'm pretty sure 5G is totally separate from this, because 5G, I know, is little antennas on top of the electric poles and that kind of thing. This is cable, internet. They're
Okay.
actually in competition with Charter, but they will be putting them, I understand is maybe every other yard or in between every 2 yards.
Okay. Is there,
And frankly, the legislature has given them permission to do this, and we don't really have any control over it.
right, well,
unfortunately.
that's what they said to other communities too, and they
Mhm.
figured out a way. I wish the city attorney could be here, but
Well, like I said, I don't think this is 5G. I think that's something totally separate, which very well may be
okay.
coming to Monona, but,
My point is, in the
Okay.
future, they're gonna try to put
Yep.
it in here, and I think we should all be aware of what's going on, so just roll over and, see what happens, so.
okay. Thank you.
all very much.
Thank you. Next up, Tom Brittle would like to speak in favor of 309 Femrite. If you'd like to come up to the podium, thank you.
I just moved to Mr. Manager's development about less than a year ago, and I understand he's going to put up a dual family home, and I saw the pictures of this, and I think it's beautiful. Our whole area, he's done several other things down the street, and he just constantly, we have talks a lot of times, and he just constantly strives to want to improve the neighborhood. And I'm all for that, because the other end of Rose Lawn, it's a bad neighborhood, and the more we can start improving it, the better it'll be. And, you know, Monona's so landlocked that wave of the future is a lot of two-family homes. And his development, or his house, you don't even know it's a two-family home. It's really beautiful. So I'm all in favor of it.
Okay,
So,
thank
all I
you.
got to say. I love living there.
Great. Next up is Brooke Logan, who would like to speak in favor of the two-family home at 309 Femrite. And I'm sorry, I should have asked, Brooke, if you could give your address, and Tom's address is 213 Femrite. So.
Hi, I'm Brooke. I live at 6101 Roselawn Avenue. I'd like to speak in favor of the two-family home that we're speaking about at 309 Femrite for several reasons. I think there was a conversation last time where there were comparisons made between this multifamily situation versus the south end of Roselawn. I think those are rather ill-informed, so I'd like to hopefully put out there that that's really not what we're talking about, though I would be very happy to come to a meeting and speak about the south end of Roselawn some other time. As a tenant of the newer homes on Roselawn and Femrite, I can speak very directly to my experience with Dale, both from a building perspective, a neighbor perspective. The quality, the vision, the excitement that you get from moving into new urban homes is really, really great. It's a really top-notch experience. I think that Dale's plans are really phenomenal and really great for our future. Our area, specifically the 6 homes that have been built on the corner of Femrite and Roselawn, I think have been really great for Monona for many reasons. Certainly a walkability perspective. There's so many things that we can walk to, and thus more citizens that can buy into the whole walking thing, as well as significantly increasing our tax base. I have 2 young children, and I really, really believe in the future of Monona for my kids. And I think it's just a really progressive movement for us to get behind and think about what our future could be as a little city. So thank you, and if there's any questions, feel free to let me know.
Thank you. And finally, we have Terry Workin, who would also like to speak in favor of rezoning 309 Femrite.
Yes, I'm Terry Workin. I live at 6103 Roselawn Avenue, next door to Brooke. And I think it's clear of the commitment that Dale has made to this particular area of Monona, not only with the 6 units that comprise our homeowners association, but all the some of the other houses that he's purchased and refurbished farther south on Roselawn. I think his commitment to the area is noteworthy, and I'm confident that with the contribution that he made in building the units that comprise our area, he'll deliver that same level of design and construction expertise to this 309 Femrite Drive area.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, now I will move on to the Winnequa Road, well, the ped bike plan, which is on the final item under new business tonight. And before we start the public appearance section, I'd like to address several rumors and comments that have been circulating on the web over the past few days. Just a little background. The pedestrian bicycle plan has been developed over the last 18 months by an ad hoc committee of Monona residents appointed by me, who worked with traffic engineers from Strand and Associates. I appointed and proposed funding for the committee after hearing from many residents regarding the need for safe places to walk and bike in Monona, as well as safety concerns in specific areas of the city, one of which is South Winnequa Road. The committee was asked to create a plan to develop safe, accessible corridors through the community, considering multiple forms of transportation, pedestrian, vehicle, and bicycle. All of the recommendations in the report were evaluated and approved by the committee members. They were not just put in there by Strand with no input from the committee. The plan is intended to be a guide for future projects everywhere in Monona. It is not, I'm sorry, sir, we can't have the, can we maybe open the other door?
I can get it.
Okay. Is that okay? Thanks. Due to open meeting law, we have to have at least one door open. The plan is intended to be a guide for future projects everywhere in Monona. It is not a mandate for anything. It suggests possible improvements for South Winnequa Road, along with a lot of other areas of Monona. That doesn't mean there can't be other improvements considered, nor does it mean that the council has to accept any of the suggestions. Consideration of the pedestrian bicycle plan is on tonight's agenda for a first reading, meaning this is the first time the full plan is being presented to the council. Because 2 council members are unable to attend tonight, staff will be giving a very brief presentation of the plan, focusing on some key items from the report. It is available online on the city website if you'd like to look at it, along with all kinds of supporting documents and surveys and various pieces of work that have been put together over like the past 5 to 10 years, I would say. So a more detailed presentation will be given at the August 19th meeting, when the council will also be voting whether or not to accept the plan. Again, voting to accept the plan does not necessarily mean that we will be doing everything suggested in the plan. It is merely a guide. We have not decided on a final design for South Winnequa, and we will not be voting on a plan for it tonight. We aren't voting to accept the bike ped plan, but even if we were, that is not the same as a plan for South Winnequa. There isn't a plan for South Winnequa right now. We're still in the early stages of gathering information to formulate a plan. Gathering information about their specific properties is why we asked to meet with the 8 residents on the section of the road with stone and retaining walls last week. It wasn't a secret meeting or trying to pull anything over anybody. It was strictly to get their input about their specific situation. Regarding the 38 trees we will most likely be taking down, these have absolutely nothing to do with any proposed project on South Winnequa. Last year, the city funded a UW forestry student to do a survey of the condition of all 5,850 trees in the city right-of-way. The city is responsible for all of these trees. About 10% are ash, all of which we know we will lose over the next few years due to emerald ash borer. There are approximately 230 trees in the right-of-way along South Winnequa. Last year, 38 of those were deemed either distressed or dead as a part of this survey. 18 of those are ash. The intern is not a certified arborist. However, her work was spot checked by the city arborist and our Public Works project manager. None of the trees except those that are obviously dead will be taken down without a confirmation of their condition by the arborist. However, it is likely that most, if not all of them, will eventually come down. The last thing we want to do is remove trees unnecessarily or deforest any street in Monona. However, having as many mature trees as there are in Monona does mean that we will have aging trees. We always have aging trees susceptible to diseases like oak wilt and emerald ash borer. And unfortunately, emerald ash borer is going through Wisconsin at a very rapid pace. I'm sure many of you have noticed the increasing number of dead or dying trees in Monona. I know I've gotten so, as I'm driving down Monona streets, I'm just kind of looking up, and it's amazing to me how many trees have big dead sections in the top, or they're just completely dead in people's yards. It's really sad. So when there is an engineering design proposed for South Winnequa, several things will happen. There will be public information meetings that I encourage you to attend, and the people in South Winnequa will be notified of those several weeks in advance. The plan will also go to the Public Works Committee for review and comment and a vote. The plan will then go to the City Council, where it will be read at one meeting and then voted on at a second meeting, usually 2 weeks later. That is our typical process, is we have it available for comment at 2 meetings. At both of those meetings, residents will be able to attend and make comments about the plan. However, it's going to be a while before we get to that point. As I informed all the residents of South Winnequa in a letter last November and again this past May, we had hoped to have a plan for improvements ready in time for consideration for the 2020 capital budget. I also told them what improvements we were considering. At the time, I stated that the 2020 date would be dependent on a variety of factors, including estimated costs and our ability to obtain all the information and input needed to finalize a plan. Capital budget proposals for 2020 are due to me this month. Given all the work remaining to be done on the proposal, I don't think it will be finished in time for the 2020 capital budget, and I will most likely be moving it back to 2021. So that's all I had to say. I just wanted to clear up some misconceptions that we keep hearing about. I am now going to open this up for people to make comments. First of all, I'm just going to read the names of people we've heard from over the past several days regarding this. Ann Brophy, 6309 West Great Road. Jim Shropshire, 5719 Toniawatha Trail. Patricia Schultz, 5211 Toniawatha Trail. Barb Klinsing, 4711 Midmore Road. Virginia Evangelist, 4310 Winnequa Road. Julie Miller, 4503 Shore Acres. Peggy Michaelis, 4410 Winnequa Road. Jan Fox, 5805 Winnequa Road. David Joranson, 605 Panther Trail. Megan Robinson, 5510 Schluter Road. Kelly Unke, 6111 Winnequa Road. Roxanne Robinson, 5510 Schluter Road. Brian Mink, 1207 Birchhaven Circle. Kurtz Stute, 6003 Winnequa Road. And Jim and Cindy Drager, and I don't have your address, but I know you're on Winnequa Road. Okay. Pardon? So if, first of all, before we start here, if anybody else would like to make a comment and hasn't filled out a slip, please do so. There's some over at the table. We would like to ask you to limit your remarks to 3 minutes. We would appreciate if you would focus on statements regarding the items under consideration and refrain from derogatory remarks aimed at city council members. According to our rules, the council will be listening to your comments, but we cannot get into a dialogue regarding what you're saying. So first up is Ann Holman, who would like to, well, she would like to register against, she's a pedestrian bike improvements and would like to speak for informational purposes only.
Okay.
So Ann, if you'd like to.
I just wanted to say that your statement.
Would you please go up to the podium? Thank you. That's so that we can record it for, we're streaming this meeting. So if you could state your name and your address.
I'm Ann Holman from 4702 Winnequa Road. And I just want to thank Mary for your statement in advance. And you answered many of my questions. So I don't have anything further to say.
Okay, thank you. Next, Monica Hansen would like to register against of 4703 Winnequa Road. Jackie Hyde, 5902 Winnequa Road, would like to register against the adoption of the engineering report. Sharon Lehrer of 5801 Winnequa Road would like to register against the pedestrian bike path and would like to speak against it. So Sharon, if you'd like to come up to the podium.
Hi, I would just like to ask the council.
If you could state your name and your
I'm
address.
sorry. Sharon
okay.
Lair, 5801 Winnequa Road.
Okay.
And I would like to ask the council to strongly consider the one-way proposal. I feel this process is being rushed. I feel that we've been in a position where we've had limited notification of meetings and stuff. So I'm just hoping going forward with the meetings that we're giving adequate time and notice of meetings so that the public can be there. And I think there's a good solution that at least warrants consideration and a trial that could potentially save the taxpayers a lot of money and could provide the safety that I think all of us are looking for in Winnequa. So I just respectfully ask people to seriously consider that notion and that we have the possibility and a good timing to try that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, if you'd like to speak, I'll need you to, did you fill out a slip? Okay.
I didn't realize they come up. Jackie Hyde.
I don't know why.
Yeah. She was like right before Sharon.
Oh, I called out, okay, as you wanted to register, would you like to speak instead? Okay, if you, why don't you be next then? Jackie Hyde, speaking.
So my name is Jackie Hyde. I live at 5902 Winnequa Road for the past 21 years. Through the years, we have seen many things. We walk, bike, and drive on Winnequa Road. I support safety for bikes and pedestrians. I first proposed having Winnequa Road a one-way back in 2005 during the reconstruction of Winnequa Road, but this idea was rejected. Currently, due to the proposal to widen Winnequa Road, this proposal seems overkill since many trees, gardens, landscaping would be destroyed. I believe that the beauty of Winnequa Road would be destroyed too as part of this process. I believe it should be a one-way street. I believe that other areas that this has been done, in Minneapolis and White Bear Lake, Minnesota, it's been successful. I believe we should consider other proposals and take more time and consider just going with the one way. I think it would be a lot less expensive, and I think it would preserve the beauty of Winnequa Road. And if we did take down all these trees, I think it would be 30 to 40 years before these trees were as large as they are right now.
Thank you. Next is David Lair, who would like to speak against the adoption of the head bike plan.
I'm David Lehrer. I live at 5801 Winnequa Road. I'm here to speak in opposition to adoption of the pedestrian and bicycle improvement plan. I think it's come together too hastily with too little public input and too much of a reliance on consultants. I review the public record of the public comment periods for the plan in May of 2018 and October of 2018. And the public comments in those meetings focused on lower speeds, stop signs, speed tables, enforcement. Didn't focus on sidewalks, or that wasn't a high on the list of ideas from those two public meetings. I noted in the 2013 Monona Public Survey, sidewalks ranked 29th on the list of what was important to Monona residents in that 2013 survey. I mean, now we're contemplating spending $10 million plus if the recommendations of the pedestrian and bicycle improvement plan are adopted. We just spent a significant amount of money in 2006 redoing the road, and I think we should pause, slow down, and be more thoughtful about spending that kind of money, public money. And as I think you already called attention to, Mayor, we're losing trees as it is. If we were to ultimately go with the preferred option on South Winnequa Road, we're talking about dozens and dozens and dozens of big trees coming down. What's the impact of that? I don't think the public would be in favor of that. I know it changed the character of our community. So, those are my comments. Thank you.
Kurtz Stute would like to speak against the Monona Pedestrian Bicycle Improvement Plan. And I should say, Nikki Stute is yielding her time to Kurtz Stute.
I'll try to keep it to 3 minutes anyway.
Okay.
My name is Kurtz Stute, 6003 Winnequa Road, and I'm talking against the pedestrian plan. Specifically, almost everything in it that seems to be a preponderance towards building sidewalks. I'm speaking as a 50-year Monona resident. I've walked, run, and bicycled on these roads since I was a child. I've taken my children around on these roads. I bike to work now. I have a abiding interest in safety for pedestrians and bicyclists on this path, but I think a lot of what is called in for here is unnecessary and expensive. So I'm asking you, please stop. There's a questionable need for what is being called out in this plan. Focus on safety. A lot of the data that's provided here in safety is presented in such a way to show percentages that show Monona as more unsafe than Dane County, more unsafe than Madison. But if you look at the numbers, there's 9 accidents in Monona out of 422 in Madison. To show those percentages is so much higher in Monona, it per person completely ignores the fact of the amount of traffic that's coming from Madison through Monona that is dramatically raising the number of people beyond just our population that are using these specifically bike paths. The other thing with safety is almost all of this is focused on areas where the accidents haven't happened. Almost all of the accidents are on Monona Drive. And I appreciate that Monona Drive belongs to Dane County, not Monona. That's fine, but don't use accidents on an area we're not addressing to justify actions on an area that we are addressing. One of the key things in here is a gap analysis. And we say we're addressing the number 2 and number 4 biggest gaps in the actual need versus the actual performance. Specifically with regard to sidewalks. It's the number 2 gap between the importance and the execution. But if you look at the importance, we gave the community 10 things to rank. It was the lowest rank in importance was sidewalks. And yet the preponderance of this plan is filling up our neighborhoods with sidewalks. It is number 10 out of 10 on the importance. So based on that, this is not a community priority. And I'm not saying that safety is not a community priority. I'm saying sidewalks are not a community priority. Cost. Our city already has a high debt load. I appreciate the response I got to my letter from Alder Coor this afternoon. She has promised to provide me some information which I couldn't find publicly available on the website, and I do appreciate that. Our taxes are already extremely high, and we're about to increase it with a Monona Grove School referendum. We can't afford to take on additional debt, additional financial burden. It's not fiscally responsible use of our community resources. The impact on the natural beauty and the environment. Monona prides itself as a tree city. That's one of our major selling points of this community. The real estate agents routinely say that tree canopy, beautiful gardens, overall natural beauty, those are all primary draws for our community. This plan will have a dramatic negative impact on one of our top assets in the city of Monona. Lastly, if you look at climate change, we have scientists who are saying the world is being forever altered by human activities. They are imploring for more trees and less concrete. This plan does the exact opposite of that. They do claim in here that it has a positive impact on greenhouse gas emissions, but if you look into their claim, it makes no sense. They're claiming that entirely based on an assumption that we're going to shift all sorts of people from driving cars to riding bikes and walking. But it makes no sense. The thing that drives down Monona's commuter rate is because of proximity to work. It has nothing to do with infrastructure. Infrastructure is not our problem that's keeping low the amount of people who are riding bikes and walking. If anything, if you include the amount of Madison traffic that's coming through here, we have way higher use of pedestrian and bike than other communities. It just does not make sense. This is going to kill a lot of trees. It's going to kill a lot of green space. It's going to raise greenhouse emissions, not lower them. So, last of all, don't accept this expensive plan that has questionable justification. Don't sacrifice Monona's natural beauty for a plan that does little to improve safety. Don't cut down trees and add pavement when our world so desperately needs more trees and less pavement. Please don't. Please stop.
Thank you. So that closes the appearance portion of the meeting. There is no public hearing. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Move to approve. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Consent agenda is approved. Item G1A, under unfinished business, consideration of ordinance 7-19-719, rezoning 309 Femrite Drive from single-family residence district SF to two-family residence district TF for the development of a two-family attached residence, and this is put forth by the Plan Commission. Is there a motion to approve this?
Move approval. Second.
Douglas? Or do we want
Actually,
Dale
let's have
to
the
talk
applicant come up
first?
and just
Okay.
give.
Mr. Ganser, if you'd like to come to the podium to talk about this a little bit, state your name and address.
My name's Dale Ganser. I live at 207 Femrite Drive. First, I want to thank those from the neighborhood that stopped by this evening to speak in favor of the project. I know you have Plan Commission notes, and I believe you got the packet that I submitted to Plan Commission. So obviously, I'm not going to go into that. I just wanted to make a couple points. The first is the first time I looked at this, I went to the Monona Comprehensive Plan packet and looked at precedents for single-family and two-family homes side by side in Monona. And in looking at that map, I found neighborhoods just like that, single-family and two-family next to each other: Valerie Lane and Nichols, Owen Road and Frostwoods, Ford Street and Bartell, Falcon Circle, and then of course our neighborhood of Femrite and Roselawn. So I think the precedent is set without any issue. I also wanted to address, because this was discussed at length at Plan Commission, and Alderman Woods brought this up 2 weeks ago at the meeting, is this spot zoning. And I think that this lot on Femrite Drive understandably is associated with Roselawn Avenue and all the homes up and down Roselawn Avenue, which are single family. The issue is though really that there are no homes, no single family homes between Roselawn and Menards that are oriented towards Femrite Drive. So the house next door, the only house next door is single family. The Femrite home is oriented towards Roselawn. So this home kind of stands by itself. Across the street we have 28 unit senior community. Next to that is a 48 unit condominium project. And then down the street to the east are all multifamily apartments and two-family homes. And I would also argue immediately to the east of this property is multifamily as well, with Roselawn Cemetery. So this home is really kind of an island, and I would argue the last thing it should be is a single-family home, and that two-family is an excellent use at this location. And then just one last note is the last time I came in for a zoning change was about 5 years ago, and we rezoned a single-family lot on the corner of Roselawn and Femrite to small lot subdivision. And we actually wrote that zoning for the city. And I think that the fact that that development ended up in Monona's comprehensive plan in 2016 is proof that it serves as a model for what a small lot, single-family subdivision can be in Monona. And I will, without a doubt, argue that having this two-family home go up on Rose Lawn will also become a model for Monona as to what a two-family home can be. And I can assure you, very, very different than the two-family homes we have in Monona. So that's it, unless there's questions.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Ganser? Hearing none, then all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Next up, under new business, item G2A, consideration of resolution 19-8-2365, authorizing the issuance of $3,530,000 in general obligation promissory notes and the issuance and sale of $3,530,000 taxable note anticipation notes, Series 2019B, in anticipation thereof, put forth by the finance director, and this is starred for immediate approval. So is there a motion to take this out of order? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Is there a motion to approve this?
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay. Mark?
This resolution is the last meeting we had a resolution authorize our financial advisor to start negotiating. Now he's came back with the rates. This is the number you have right now has actually been changed. When they went to the market, they're coming back with $3.4 million. There was some capitalized interest that we didn't need. This is a TIF, basically, this is the note we're borrowing for the TIF development agreements. So this will be paid for by the TIF over the life of it. So it's at 3.4. I don't know if Jeff wants to come up here and say anything, but
Jeff, do you want to come up and introduce yourself?
Thank you, Mark. My name is Jeff Belangi. I'm with Hutchinson Shockey Early and Company, and as I said to finance, it's been a pleasure of mine to serve the city since 2003 as your investment banker, financial consultant. And as Mark gave us a bit of a prelude, we anticipated going out with $3,530,000 based on our estimates and the way in which debt was being marketed over the last 4 to 5 years. And we were happily surprised by the fact that we had some buyers who requested that your issue be done as a par bid as opposed to producing premiums, which we certainly wanted to listen to. Because anytime you have a buyer that's really willing to come to the table, you can usually get a little bit higher price, lower interest rate for your client in that respect, and I think we've done that. Originally, we estimated, as I said, $3,530,000. You have a new resolution before you tonight. It's $3,400,000, so it's $130,000 less than was anticipated. That's primarily due to a drop in anticipated interest rate. This issue is taxable. As you know, we normally, for public purpose improvements, get a tax exempt rate, which is lower than a taxable rate, and that's for improvements that are done that are owned by the public. In this case, these are developer incentives. They directly help and assist a for-profit. So the IRS says you have to do them as a taxable basis, which normally means we get a little bit higher rate. You have a rate on this issue of 2.05%. That's taxable. Wasn't that long ago that the best tax exempt rates were right around 2%. And we have one issue, I think we had a 196 one year on a 10-year financing for our capital projects. So we've got some excellent interest rates in place. But again, that's the reason for the change. I took the liberty of passing out a photocopy off of Bloomberg of 2 Wisconsin issues that are taxable. Both of them have an equal rating to ours. They're Moody's ratings, but they're AA's. We have a Standard & Poor's AA on this particular issue. We actually aren't issuing 2 sets of debt. You looked at that resolution tonight, and what we're actually issuing is a promise to do notes in the future to take this out. That's all we're doing. We're not promising a tax levy. We're not promising revenues from an enterprise system. We are simply making the most flimsy promise that a municipality can make, and that is, trust us, we'll do notes in the future. Now, we've done that for a number of reasons. Since it's TIF supported, in between now and the time that this becomes due in September of 2022, we anticipate we're going to generate considerable tax incremental income off TID number 9. That means these note anticipation notes may never actually end up as long-term notes. If the cash is there, we have the option and a call feature to start paying them back as soon as September of 21. And we can pay them back in $5,000 increments, whatever monies we have at that time. So it's a benefit for us because it gives us flexibility for this specific type of project and the anticipation of additional cash revenues to pay this debt service from TID number 9. That being said, if you take a look at this handout, you'll see there are two separate issues here, and you'll see that the top issue, Sheboygan, the city of Sheboygan, they've got coupons of 5% from the first year all the way out to 2027, and this is a non-callable issue. They can't get at any of those bonds. They're going to pay 5% regardless of what happens between now and that time. And don't ask me why they would have been given that advice. I wouldn't have done it to any of my clients, but here it is. I didn't make it up. What I want to use, though, are the price yield comparisons. This is a 4-1 day-to-date. Remember, ours is 5 months longer. Ours is 9-1. So if you take a look at 4-1 of 22, and this is another thing I don't quite get, it's a 196. It's an incredible yield. But right before it, in the previous year, it's 2%, and the first year, which is 2020, is actually a 220. Does everyone see that? Totally backwards in terms of what you'd expect. The longer you put your money out, the more you ought to get in terms of a return. But my guess is that a buyer bought those first 3 maturities as a lump sum and are averaging that yield. That'd be my guess. Little bond education here if you allow me some discretionary time. If you take a look at the other issue of the City of Oak Creek, a AA, they have 10-1 maturity, so they're 1 month longer than ours. Take a look at the 22 maturity, they're at a 2.15, we're at a 2.05. We're back basically 10 basis points through that particular maturity. And they didn't issue them premiums. Their coupons and their yields are exactly the same as our issue. It's a 205 coupon, a 205 yield. Does everyone understand that? When we originally sized this issue, I expected 4% coupons in that year. But I didn't expect. I used it just to be safe. I was hoping for something in the 3s. But when you get 2% versus 4, cuts your interest rate and cost in half, doesn't it? So that issue is also, the Oak Creek issue is non-callable. They can't get at any of those bonds. They're in a little bit better shape because of where the yields and stuff are on that issue. So any questions? What you have before you is a resolution for $3.4 million. It includes capitalized interest on the $3,115,000 that I believe the city has already paid the developer as part of the agreement. So we're reimbursing ourselves with this money. It's money that's already been spent on TID number 9, and we'll be paying a 2.05% for as long as that debt's out. And as we pay it off, we'll be buying back 2.05%.
Any questions? Kathy, did you? Nope. Okay, there are no questions. Joan, do we need a roll call for this? Please call the, Jeff, or Doug?
Motion to amend, because right now it does say the original $3,530,000. So I would move to amend the resolution so that everywhere where it says $3,530,000, it be changed to $3,400,000.
Second.
Is there a second? Any more comments?
Nope.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, now we are back to a vote on the amended motion. Any other additional questions, comments? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Alder Groupie?
Aye.
Alder Wood?
Aye.
Alder Court?
Aye.
Alder Thomas?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Next item, G2B, consideration of resolution number 19-8-2366, approving a contract with the Slipstream Group Incorporated for renewable energy feasibility study put forth by the city administrator. This is also started for immediate action. I think we've been waiting for this for a long time.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Is there a motion to approve this?
Second.
Brad, did you want to address this, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just going to leave this up here for the next item. So the Office of Energy Innovation Grant was approved in January. We are one of 7 participants in the grant. The City of Middleton is the administrator on the grant because they were technically awarded the grant as a single entity. The PSC and the Office of Energy Innovation did not want to award one lump sum, but then divide it out between all the communities. So the City of Middleton is the administrator on the grant. Slipstream is their hired consultant to perform the services incorporated in the grant award. And all the rest of the municipalities are participants. Each municipality has a certain cost share amount. It's around 27%. So our cost share, along with several other municipalities, is dedicated to labor. So just staff time. We have to record staff time. That includes myself, the city administrator, if they have any work associated with the project, possibly the city attorney, and then any interns that are also working on it. So that's essentially a wrap up of what that contract is.
Okay. And as I mentioned in Finance and Personnel, they will be, as part of this, taking a look at the status of our solar panels, which are up for, we need to make a decision about within the next year.
Yeah, that is part of the
So,
scope.
correct.
Yep. Effectively, the deliverable from this project is a comprehensive energy plan. It looks at possibility for renewables in the city, specifically for the municipality, not necessarily community-wide. It looks at energy efficiency projects, low-hanging fruit and long-term projects as well to get us to the goals that the City Council approved in its 100% clean energy resolution. So it's a long-term look.
Questions, anyone? Nope, hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Brad, for all the time you've spent on this. Item 2, G2C, consideration of resolution 19-8-2367, renew and adoption, this should also actually say acceptance of pedestrian and bicycle improvements plan put forth by the Ad hoc Pedestrian Bicycle Committee. And Brad's going to just do a short presentation on this, and we'll have a more lengthy one at our next meeting.
So the Ped Bike Improvements Plan is a long time coming for the city of Monona. I know that this has been a topic of consideration for city councils of many past years, and of the Sustainability Committee, and the Public Works Committee, and the Public Safety Committee. So I just want to start by saying thank you to all the Ad hoc Pedestrian and Bike Committee members, especially Alder Wood, who helped considerably on this project. And then Leah Kimmel, who is a staff member with the city of Monona. She was our editor-in-chief, if that's what you want to call it. That, you know, she did grammar and punctuation, looked at all the language and whatnot. So she took a considerable amount of time of her own at work to help us out with this as well. So that aside, just as a background, this Ped Bike plan, this pedestrian bike improvements plan, is not simply an engineering plan. It goes well beyond infrastructural improvements, on the ground improvements, and engineering in general. The idea behind a Ped Bike plan is to present a comprehensive look at ways to improve safety, accessibility, And all in all, with this plan in particular, active living or wellness, community wellness. It's become a central focus of municipal governments, state governments, county governments, national government to look at community wellness or wellness of populace, looking at diseases and common things like that that strain on household income and just overall well-being. And this plan tries to do that. Obviously, a bulk of the plan is going to be engineering improvements. Engineering improvements last. They're on the ground constantly. There's a section or a part of language in the plan that states that you can put a sidewalk or ped bike path or something like that or a stop sign in, and it'll last forever. It'll be there 24/7. It's always there, helping to control and provide safety, whereas a police officer may not be patrolling that particular intersection or area all the time. So that's the importance of engineering, but it's not the only part of a plan like this. I would list out the history behind why this all came about, but that's 10 years in the making. And it's well documented in the plan itself. The introduction section of the plan runs through all of the previous pieces of work that went into this, all the research, the surveys, the amount of public outreach. There's been multiple opportunities for residents to give feedback on the plan, not on the plan, but on pedestrian and bike safety, on potential improvements and what they'd like to see or not see in the city of Monona. That's also documented in the public input section, which is section 2 of the plan. The engineering improvements, that section is section 3. It's the bulk of the plan. It's already been, you've already seen it, city council has. I believe back in maybe February of this year. So most of that section comes straight from the Strand report. It's, if you've all seen it, I don't want to go into it too much of detail. The next couple sections make up what I would say is just as important as most of the rest of the sections of the plan, the enforcement, education, and encouragement and evaluation sections. These sections, the enforcement and policy section, lays out recommendations for different policies, rules, ordinances, etc., that either may be revised, new ones that may need to be incorporated in the city's ordinances to help promote bike safety and pedestrian safety in Monona, that helps bring it current with new technology, new infrastructure, new standards of infrastructure, or otherwise new ways of enforcement, what have you. For instance, cops on bikes. We have it in the City of Monona Police Department that they provide certain amount of hours for officers on bikes, especially at events. I think that that's one of the recommendations in the enforcement section, just as an example. Education and encouragement is a bulky portion as well. There's many programs and policies that cities can promote. The great part of that section of this plan is that we recommend that we attach to other programs, other organizations that do these types of events, do outreach, do education for residents, especially for youth. Programs, for instance, where you, like Wheels for Winners, where youth, somebody from the community can participate in it. They learn how to fix bikes, put bikes together, and then at the end of it, they get a free bike. So it not only shows them how to do these things on their own, but also encourages them by providing them with a resource that they can use to be more active in the community. The evaluation section is extremely important as well. It lays out recommendations for the city of Monona to look at progress that they've made in terms of ped and bike safety or improvements. Some recommendations from that section include, for instance, bike counter, much like the one that's on John Nolan Pathway. That's an automatic counter. It doesn't require somebody to sit out on a main bike route and count on a routine basis during the year. It's not subject to trying to do the algorithm to figure out what the overall yearly pedestrian or bike count is for that section of roadway or pathway. So it's a little bit more accurate, it's a little bit more believable. And it's something right there on the ground that you can look at and say, hey, oh, nice, there's this many people that are on this route on a day or today. So I'm just one of the 500 or whatever it is. And then the last section is next steps, and that section obviously is very important. It kind of lays out a roadmap for the city of Monona, not only for engineering recommendations, but also for policies and programs. So it provides a summary of different things that different departments can do. For instance, I believe the senior center has in there for a walking program for seniors in the city. So they'd meet somewhere close to the senior center or community center, and they'd have a route that they plan out, and they'd go and walk it on a routine basis during a week when it's nice and the weather's good. Items like that, things like that, that you can evaluate just by saying, we did this many miles and this many people participated. So that's essentially all the sections of the plan. In very, very brief summary, if you have any questions at this point, I know that you haven't had a lot of time to review it, and there's a lot of material there, but I'll take any questions.
Alder Thomas.
Not here, but this was who actually wrote the plan?
There's a lot of authors in the plan. For instance, this engineering section has a lot of Strand's input. The enforcement, education, and evaluation sections have a lot of input from the UCY projects, all those reports. There's several reports that feed into those sections as well, but I was the main author, I guess, if you want to call that.
Okay.
I was the aggregator, is what I like to call it.
And so when you talked about ordinances and stuff in here, was that stuff that came out of the committee, or was that stuff that was presented?
It's
the documents in here, what to do.
Right.
Did that come out of the committee? Was that presented to the committee?
Yep. Came out of the committee. Committee had the feedback on it. There was points in there that they raised issues with that were revised. There were things taken out. There was ideas or recommendations added and suggestions and whatnot like that. Yep.
Last question. Since it talks about safety and public works being part of the steering team, have they reviewed this plan?
The Public Works Committee?
I can answer that. So no, we had a joint meeting excuse me, of the Ped Bike Committee with Public Safety and Public Works. But it was never the plan that those committees would review this plan, but rather the ad hoc committee's plan would be presented as, here's the work product after approximately 18 months of working on it, to hopefully, guide the city going forward. So I guess for individual projects, this accepting this plan doesn't approve any particular project.
Doesn't require anybody to do anything. It's a guide.
Mm-hmm.
Right, yes, it's from an advisory committee that we had expert help and a great membership. We did have a member from Public Works and Public Safety as members on the committee, Larry Reed and Leslie Bussey. So.
Thank you. Thanks.
Any other questions? Doug, did you have anything else to say? Doug chaired the committee working on it.
Yeah, just, a little bit, kind of more of a step back from the nuts and bolts and details of the plan, but I think part of the reason this plan was done was, I believe at least there's a change in attitudes in the city towards needing safe areas for pedestrians to walk, to make connections to the primary destinations that might be, for pedestrians or bikers, schools, community facilities, parks, businesses. It actually, I think what kind of really brought it to a head was when the McKenna Road project was being considered for the designs now a couple of years ago, and it included sidewalks, and the neighbors there said, well, why us? Do you have a plan, an overall plan for where you would like to see sidewalks so that we know that that it's part of a plan? Now, to me, that section of McKenna connecting sidewalks on Dean down to the intersection that's like a half a block from the school makes a lot of sense. But anyway, that was part of the, I think, impetus to do the report. But our focus was not, believe it or not, solely on South Winnequa Road. We looked at the entire, it was supposed to be a joke, but we looked at the whole city. The way I sort of have envisioned this, and I believe strongly that we do need more sidewalks, not everywhere, strategically selected, and certainly, we would try to minimize the impact on trees because I love Monona as a very heavily treed city, and it's terrible to see us already losing so many trees to the emerald ash borer, although I know other communities have been hit even worse. Anyway, this is not something like proposed and completed in a short time period. To me, it's a long-term project that will be up to a lot of future councils and mayors to implement or not implement. I look at it, it's similar to about 15 or so years ago, we started looking at the playground equipment in all of our parks. And I went around actually and took photos of them. And it was, the condition of most of them was pretty poor. They weren't very inviting. They weren't, they were old. And so we began a commitment in the capital budget every year to fund a park for a new playground structure, which costs more than you might expect. But after doing that consistently over a 10 to 15 year period, I guess it is now, I think we have done just about I believe every park that has playground equipment is new. So the point is, to me, this is something that if it is implemented, will be implemented over time and by others than just the folks that are sitting here today. So.
Thank you. Anyone else have anything? No? Well, next time we hope, I know we're going to talk with Strand, and we'll have more of a formal presentation when the entire council is here as well. And that's when we'll be voting to accept it, or we could always delay the vote too if need be, so. Alder Groupie?
So I just want to thank everybody for coming and sharing their input tonight and in anticipation of the meeting. As we mentioned, this has been an ongoing process with opportunities for public input and listening sessions. And I would encourage you, if you feel that you were not able to make those or you didn't feel that you were adequately informed about those opportunities, to sign up for our civic alerts through our website, and just regularly check on mymonona.com to see upcoming events and meetings so that you feel that you are able to attend and provide your input at appropriate times throughout the phases of the process versus feeling like you're kind of caught off guard at the last minute, because we're happy to facilitate those engagements and those conversations throughout the process with all of you. So thank you for coming tonight. And thank you to Alder Kaur for her very thoughtful responses to many of you via email I thought that was, I really appreciate all of the information that she included and that she responded, so thank you.
I guess I only have one other addition. I
Mhm.
forgot to mention it. The pedestrian and bike improvements webpage has not only this plan document, but it has, like the mayor said before, every other supporting document that the city's ever participated in. It is a plethora of information, and I highly encourage that you take a look if you are curious about the feedback given by other members of the community. Historically throughout this process. Every document is there and the feedback is in there.
And it's much more than just the 2 public information sessions we had regarding the plan,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, there's been at least 3 fairly significant surveys done prior to this plan being written, prior to even the committee being formed, that helped initiate that entire process. So.
Okay, thank you. All right. So I will move on to item H, reports of committees, commissions, boards, et cetera. Alder Groupie?
So next Tuesday, the 13th, is National Night Out, and I just wanted to give a plug for that. It's a great opportunity for people to come out in the community, engage with our public safety department. It's also our final concert for the Friends of the Monona Senior Center Board, Linda and the Zeros, which is a Monona-based band. And the Sustainability Committee will also have an informational exhibition about different opportunities to invest in clean energy and support the community in sort of our initiative that we passed earlier this year to get there by 2050. So hope to see you there.
Alder Wood?
No report other than the MPO meets this Wednesday. One of the items on the agenda is to approve for issuance to the public a list of projects for 2020 to 2025. And Atwood Avenue at this point is not one of the recommended to be approved projects.
Interesting.
So, well, that will go out for public comment. It'll come back to the board, I think, in September for approval, either that's September or October. So.
Alder Corr?
So you said it's not on the docket to be approved for 2020, but potentially it's still alive?
Well, so what we're approving is the spending of the STBG urban projects money from the feds, and we only get obviously so much. And the projects for 2020 to 2025, including 5 new ones, because it's a kind of a rolling thing, do not include Atwood.
Okay.
So it's still there, and I mean, I think all or most of the engineering is done.
That's what I think is shelf ready.
So, but unless, it's not an inexpensive project, so unless, like Pleasant View Road is one that's getting a large amount of money, if that project scope were reduced, it's possible that Atwood could come back in, or some of the other projects might fall out. But right now, it's not. But I mean, that's part of the point of putting it out for public comment too, is for the board to get feedback. So, and I know the mayor did write, or Brian, I guess the administrator, wrote a letter to the MPO urging approval of Atwood Avenue. So, and that's in the packet.
Yeah.
So, anyway. Other than that, I can recommend whitewater rafting in Oregon or Washington. Highly recommend.
Alder Corr?
On August 17th, the Landmarks Commission is sponsoring or hosting a dedication of the Monona Mound here. The ceremony will be upstairs by the windows in the library, and then we'll come down here for refreshments and a presentation a short presentation about the history of the mound. So I encourage you to attend. The public is welcome. No need to RSVP.
Did I see somewhere that that you do have a date for the report by the people who did the survey of the landmark
I'm sorry, Brian?
homes?
Meat hunt.
Yes.
Meet and hunt.
Do we have a date?
I saw a date for that somewhere. I saw April,
Yeah,
or
I saw-
August 28th.
I'll have to verify that. That was under the understanding.
I
that they
just
weren't
read it
doing
earlier today, but I can't. I didn't see a time, so.
Landmarks meets next week, and so that's on our agenda to discuss
Okay.
at that time.
I think it
So-
was actually in Doug's report that was in the packet today, so.
I know that, I mean, there were periodic reporting requirements as it went along, but it does seem like it's getting near the end of the.
Because we haven't really had anything after that initial meeting, have we?
So the report was due from the consultants July 15th,
Oh.
and then based on that report, we were going to schedule a rollout.
Okay, cool. Looking forward to it.
Alder Thomas, city clerk,
No report, Mayor.
city administrator.
The others covered pretty much everything. The only one to add is just a kind of notice that the last pop-up beer garden for the summer will be August 29th at Schluter Park from 5 to 9 p.m.
And former Monona resident Lo Marie will be the featured musician. Will be great. I also wanted to thank Alder Coor. I know she has spent a lot of time over the past 4 or 5 days responding to all these emails we've gotten regarding the Winnaker Road project, and I really appreciate your work on that.
And long.
Pardon?
Long responses.
Yes.
And well thought out.
Yeah.
Yes. Mhm.
Really
Kudos.
honed it over time, yeah.
Yeah.
Long-winded.
I agree.
It's a great job. And also, today, Park Director Jake Anderson and I actually had lunch down at the riverfront and then went on a tour of the park and the shelter and everything, and it's really, really moving along. That park is, he said that they're hoping to lay sod at the end of the week, so I think we're,
Yeah, substantial completion is
Yeah.
expected about 2.5 weeks.
which is great. So it's definitely looking good. I guess there are no appointments tonight. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll move.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.